Hi everyone, I'm John Coverdale, and today I have another step-by-step video for students in CIS-1A. In this video, we will complete the SIMnet project Access in Practice, Chapter 2, Independent Project 2-5. To better understand what we're going to be doing today, let's take a look at the completed project as it's going to look when this video is finished. Together, we're going to be working for the Life's Animal Shelter, and we are going to be adding to a database that will keep track of animals who have been rescued by the shelter and the people who have adopted them. Now, for the sake of YouTube's community guidelines, I want to take a moment to explain that our tutorial database contains sample data, which includes fictitious names and contact information. These fake names and addresses are for educational purposes and do not correlate to any actual persons living or dead. No personally identifiable information is contained in this video. So, with that being said, let's take a look at the completed database project. What we have here are two tables, an owners table and a pets table. The pets table will exist when the project begins, but we will create and populate the owners table. Let's take a look at the structure of these two tables using the Database Tools tab and the Relationships feature. Let's click on that. What we can see here is that these two tables have a line which connects them. This side of the line has a 1 on it. This side of the line has a kind of a sideways 8, which is the infinity symbol. And what that tells us is that there's a one-to-many relationship between the owners and the pets who have been to the shelter. Now, in terms of the owners, we're going to build this table, and we'll be keeping track of the owner's last name, first name, address, city, state, zip, and phone number. We're also going to give each owner an owner ID, which I believe, as I recall, is a 4-character or 4-digit owner ID. The pets, they have a table that's already been created. Let's take a look at that right now by double-clicking on the pets table in the Access Objects area. And what we can see is that they have a pet ID, which is actually an auto number field. If I click on this field here and go to Table Fields, my tab Table Fields, we can see that this is an auto number type of field here. So each pet automatically gets a number starting with 1 and incrementing thereafter. We're going to keep track of the name of the animal, the type of the animal, which will be dog, cat, or rabbit, the breed of the animal, like for example, a Chihuahua or German Shepherd for dogs, the age of the animal, the gender, male or female, the color of the animal, and then finally, this sort of biographical piece, which is a longer piece of text called Why I'd Make a Great Companion. That's a long text, and it's called Details, and it tells about the animal and why they would be a great member of somebody's family. So we're going to be adding a field here called FK Owner ID. And in this case, FK stands for foreign key. What it means when you see foreign key is that a foreign key is something which leads back into a different table where that same number is going to be a primary key to identify, in this case, an owner. So in this pets table, the owner ID can reveal to us the owner's name, their address, their city, their phone number, and so forth. That single owner ID can stand for any or all information about one of the owners. That's a foreign key. It doesn't have to have the prefix FK. That's just something that sometimes database designers do to make it clear when you're looking at the table in a view like this, that is a foreign key which will lead into another table. So that's kind of what's going to happen when we're finished with this. Let's go ahead and close this example database here that has been completed, and we will look at the instructions that we have for Independent Project 2-5. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do is to get the required start file. And if you're taking the class from me, go look in Canvas in the module where you can find the link to this assignment, and it's very probable that I've given you a extra file that you can use so that you can import the data that they tell us to type in this assignment. Most of the problems that people have with this assignment involve simple typing mistakes. And to just help everybody out a little bit, I've created a file where you can import most of the records that you'll otherwise be typing in step number 7 right here. So if you are in my class, check for that. If you're not the greatest typist in the world, you can certainly type all this information yourself if you feel like doing so, but I'll try to help you out if you struggle with typing. Okay, so we need to download the file, which I've already done, and I have it right here. I've also downloaded the data that I've provided in Canvas for you guys to be able to import in step 7. But before we can open this file, we need to take a look at the properties. I'm going to right-click on this and go to Properties in my pop-up menu pop-up menu. And in this little pop-up window here, I'm going to look at the bottom of the General tab where it says this file came from another computer and might be blocked to help protect this computer. I need to check the Unblock checkbox here and click OK to be able to open this file. If I don't do that, let me show you what it's going to look like. I'll go back and set it back the way it was. Oh, I guess I can't do that. Okay, if I don't do that, when I open this file, it's going to have a red stripe that tells me the file is blocked for the safety of my computer. The file is totally safe, so go ahead and unblock it, and then when you open it, it's going to look like this. Click Enable Content, and you're good to go. So if we do all of that, we'll be able to check off the first few steps in the assignment. And we're going to be here at step 4, where it says create a new table using table design. And we're going to use this table here to tell us how to build the table in our database. We're going to have these field names, owner ID, owner last name, etc. All of these fields are going to use the data type short text, which is the most popular field in databases. And for some of these, we're going to have a description. And so you can either carefully copy and paste just the red characters here and paste that into Access, or you can type it. We also need to carefully set the field size for each one of these fields. And to do that, we're going to start off in table design. Let me show you what that's going to look like by going back to Access. Here we have the pets table. We've already looked at that in the solution file. Let's just open it up and you can see what it looks like here. All right, they've done that for us. We need to create the owners table, and they want us to do that. We'll need to go to the Create tab. And I would recommend that you click on Table Design. Click on the Table Design button, and you'll get this window right here. Now, I'm going to close this for just a second. If you've got this, hang on to it and don't change anything. If you go to Create and you go to Table and you click on just the Table button, it's going to create a table for you in the Datasheet view. And whenever you create a table in Datasheet view, it automatically creates, whether you want it or not, an ID column that uses auto number as the data type. We're not using that for this table. So my recommendation is don't even go here and use that method of creating a table. Hit the Create tab and click on Table Design right here, and you'll open up this method for creating a table. And so what we're going to do is the first table is going to be called Owner ID. It's going to be a short text, and it's going to have a field size of 4. So I'm going to type Owner ID, no spaces. Pay careful attention to how they capitalize everything, because that is checked when you grade your work. Hit the tab key, that'll jump you into the data type. Now we could choose any of these data types here, but we're going to keep a short text data type there, the default selection. So hop over that with the tab key and type Unique Owner ID. Now our Unique Owner ID is going to be 4 characters long, so that's the field size. If you want to kind of keep your hands on the keyboard as much as possible, hit F6. That will teleport you down to the bottom of the screen to field size, and you're going to type, I think I said 4 was the correct number there. 4 was the correct number for that? Yeah. And so we've now done the first field. One thing to keep in mind when you're working with table design is if you're looking at the properties down here at the lower part of the screen, or you're changing the properties in any way, always keep careful track of which one of the fields you have selected. The field that you've selected is going to have a yellow or gold box next to it right there. And so now we're going to click the second row. Notice the the gold box moves there. This is going to be owner last name, and I'll go ahead and paste that here. I'll hit Tab on the keyboard once. It's a short text. Hit Tab again and type last space name. Only the L is capitalized there, and it's going to be 20 characters long. I'll hit the F6 key on the top row of the keyboard and type 20 for 20 characters long. And then I'm going to go to the next row, which is going to be owner first name. And I think what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and move this whole window here over to the other screen that you guys can't see. And that way I can kind of look over here and I won't have to keep switching back. Owner first name comes next. It's a short text. We're going to call this first name, capitalizing the letter F. And that's our description, which is going to be used for kind of giving additional information about any of our fields so that if multiple people are working on maintaining this database, they will have some kind of internal documentation to remind them of what each one of these fields does or how it works. And sometimes these descriptions will pop up in forms or reports that Access makes, and so they may be visible to our users, so we want them to be something that means something to people. Okay, the length, the field size of this owner first name field is going to be 20. So I'll put 20 down in the field size. I'll click in the next empty row, and we're going to be going with address next. Hit Tab. It's going to be a short text. We're going to describe this as street address. Only the first letter S is capitalized. Hit F6, teleport down to the bottom of the screen there, and we're going to give our users up to 40 characters to type the address. Followed by that is going to be city. It's going to be a short text. There's no need to describe that. We'll give that up to 20 characters in length. The next one is going to be state. Hit the Tab key. It's going to be short text. No need for a short description for that. But we are going to limit this to just 2 characters because we're going to use at all times the 2-letter state abbreviations like CA for California or TX for Texas that are made official by the United States Post Office. We're going to use those in our database. And so limiting the field size to 2 is an example of something called data integrity. We've decided what format we're going to use for our state field, 2 characters. That will eliminate any possibility of somebody misspelling a state like Mississippi or something like that. And we could even, we're not going to do this, but we could even link that to a list so that people could choose from a list of all the possible states that are available. And in this database, we'll do something slightly different that will also enhance the reliability of our data, which is to do a default value. Because this fictional company is in Texas, we're going to auto-populate the state field with TX for Texas whenever somebody creates a new record in the database. So that's going to be 2 characters long. Let me make sure I did put a 2 there. Yep. State, and then zip is going to be capital letters. That's kind of a trademark short text. We're going to call that zip code. Note the capitalization here. And how much space will we allocate for our zip code? We're going to allocate only 5 characters, of which probably we should allocate maybe 9 in real life for the +4 extension, but we're not going to worry about that today. The last one is going to be phone, and it's going to be a short text also. Phone numbers and zip codes, they are actually numbers, digits, but they're treated as text because we sort them from biggest to smallest and we combine them with other text, like in creating a mailing label or something like that. We're going to describe this as a contact phone number, and we're going to limit this one here to 10 characters. Now, I recommend at this point, you click on Owner ID. We've created our fields. We need to do something very important, which is to tell Access which one of these fields is going to be our primary key. And to do that, we need to click on Owner ID and then click on this primary key button, and it puts a little key icon in the square next to the field name owner ID. Once we do that, Access is going to enforce a couple of rules. And one of them is that it cannot be blank. And the other one is that it cannot duplicate a key that's already been used. And that is another way that the database is going to try to ensure that we have good integrity with our data, that we don't accidentally reuse a key, because the key should always be unique. So that even if we have people with the same first and last name, even if we have people with the same first and last name and the same address and the same phone number, we will know that they're different people because they have a different owner ID. Now, you may think that's totally impossible. Could you possibly have two people with the same exact first and last name and the same exact address and phone number? And I will tell you, yes, you can. In fact, in a strange coincidence, a twist of fate, for the first 18 years of my life, I lived in a house with another guy who had the same exact name as I did. So there you have it. That was my dad. What are the odds of that? Okay, so we're going to have a unique owner ID. Let's just do a quick quality check of this. I'm going to check my work, and you can skip ahead a little bit if you don't want to bother with the quality check. But we have owner ID, short text, unique owner ID, 4 characters long. Owner last name, it's going to say last name right here for our description. It's going to be 20 characters long. Owner first name is going to be described as first name and 20 characters long. Address, 40 characters long. City, 20 characters long. State, 2 characters long. Zip is going to be 5 characters long. And then finally, phone will have a description of contact phone number and be 10 characters long. Getting all of this stuff exactly correct is important for 2 reasons. One, they grade it, and so you don't want to have to resubmit your work. But also, when we get to step 7, if we're going to successfully import the file that I've given you so we don't have to do as much typing, we'll need to have these field names and their data types match what is in that file that we're going to import. This looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the Save button, or I'll do Control S, and this has a name. What is that name going to be? The name is going to be Owners. Okay, it's going to be Owners. So we've typed all this stuff. We've set owner ID as the primary key. I'm saving this and calling my table Owners, O-W-N-E-R-S. Getting that name typed exactly correct is important for grading. If it can't find the table, it will take off points for everything that is inside of that table. And so you'll get a horrible grade, and you'll wonder what the heck happened. If that happens to you, check to make sure that the name of the table is spelled correctly if you have anything to fix, and there's a lot of mistakes. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to click on State and make sure that my gold highlight is on the state row. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to set the state field to have a default value of TX for Texas. And that's because this company, this animal shelter, is in Texas. And so we're going to make it easier for our people to enter data and to do it accurately by pre-populating this field with TX, capital letters. Use caps TX, and then click any place you like. And what's going to happen is Access will put quotation marks around TX. Let it take care of that for you, and don't try to do it yourself. Okay. Again, we're going to save the table as owners, so we can do that again right now. And we're going to select the phone field and create an input mask for the phone field. So let's see what is involved in that, okay? Using an input mask is another way of helping our users do their job more easily and accurately, and also helping with data validation. So click Phone. I'm going to hit Control S to save my database again. If it prompts you as you do this to save your database, go ahead and save it another time. One more time, it won't hurt. But click on Phone, and then down at the bottom of the properties there, once you're sure that you've clicked Phone, field size 10, and then we've got Format and then Input Mask. Click on the row for Input Mask, and then look all the way over to the right to where you'll see my mouse. I'll throw some circles around it. You're going to see a little button with 3 dots. If you click the 3 dots, it's going to open up a dialog box for you. It says Input Mask Wizard. And we're just going to choose the input mask for phone number. It's the default one right there. And we're not really going to tweak it in any way, but you can click where it says try it down here. And you can try and see how this is going to work for our users when they enter a phone number. I'm going to type some numbers, and it just lets me type in 10 numbers. Is it 10? Yeah, 10 numbers to have a complete United States style phone number. Try typing in, some alphabet characters. It will not accept alphabet characters. So it's a way of ensuring that people don't accidentally type in something that's not appropriate. Also, it provides the parentheses and the dash, and so it will format all of our phone numbers to use the same formatting. Our people don't have to worry about including parentheses or not including parentheses, or maybe some people would just use the dashes or whatever. This keeps it nice and consistent. Now you can hit next a few times here and look at the other screens, but we're not going to change any of these settings here. So eventually you'll get to this one here. How are we going to store our data? We're not going to change this. The default says that we're going to store this without the symbols. So we're just going to store a bunch of numbers, 10 numbers, but whenever it's displayed, it's going to have the proper formatting for it. And finally, you get to click Finish, and so we'll do that right now. And at this point, we are going to go back to our instructions and check off a couple of things. We've created our input mask. So we're going to go to step 6. Let's save the table one last time, and then we're going to type something, and I'll go ahead and copy it just to be lazy. We're going to select the owner ID field, and what we're going to tell Access is that our owner IDs are going to be 4 numbers and only 4 numbers, and that's all Access is going to let somebody use for an owner ID. So let's go ahead and switch back to our database and click on owner ID, double check to make sure that gold box is next to owner ID. And let's go down to validation rule. And validation rule, we're going to just type this code here. It's going to be like quotation marks, hashtag, 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 quotation marks. So just like that, it's a double quote. And then we're going to add something called validation text. And I'll copy that. And in the row below, underneath validation rule, there's a place for validation text. I will type or paste. You can type if you wish. The rule, you must enter a 4-digit owner ID. They're going to grade this to make sure that we type it perfectly the way that they want it. So make sure that you type it just exactly like they've given it to us here. And you may be asking yourself, well, what does this do? What is this for? Well, what's going to happen is if our users, when they enter a new person in the database, they try to violate this rule, and they try to put alphabet characters, or they try to do something else that's not valid for the owner ID, they're going to get an error message with the information that we just typed that tells them you must enter a 4-digit owner ID. So we've done step 6 now. Let's go ahead and switch to datasheet view, and we can test this out here. To switch to datasheet view, we're going to click on the View button. That's on the Table Design tab. Click on the View button, switch to Datasheet View. You may be prompted to save the database. Please do. And now for owner ID, try typing some alphabet characters there. Try typing your initials. Hit Enter, and it says, no, you must enter a 4-digit owner ID. So let's go ahead and set that aside for now. I'm going to actually take a moment to just check off a couple of things here. And we're going to type 1111 in the owner ID field and just make sure that we can get that to validate. 1111. Hit the tab key. And so now we've tested this, and we shouldn't be able to type more than 4 characters. Anything we type, as long as it's numbers, is going to be okay. Let's try typing letters. It won't let us do that. Okay, so this is working. You'll need to type something valid here, 1111. You can hit the tab key, and then once you've done that, you can delete this. I'm going to go to my table fields tab, or let's see, table tab here. There we go, table tab. Nope, table fields tab. if I click delete, I don't want to do that. I want to go to the Home tab, I think. There we go. And how do I delete here? Here's how I usually do it. I usually just right-click on it and choose Delete Record. There is a place on the ruler to do it. One of it will delete the field. We don't want to do that. Here it is, delete a record. We could do it right here if we wanted to. Let's delete that record that we don't need. We're going to start over, and we're going to enter some people into the database here. Now, if you want to use the data file that I've given you, if you have that data file, type just the first gentleman here, Tyrone Washington, owner ID 0100. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to type 0100. Owner last name. I can give myself a little bit more space on some of these here, I think, by pulling over the line separating these different fields. Owner last name, Washington. Owner first name, Tyrone. Where is the database gone to? Tyrone lives at 11 Lakewood Drive in the city of Abilene, Texas. Notice Texas is already typed out for us. His zip code is 79601. I'll copy that. And I'm having trouble switching between my windows here. Let's see. There we go. Tab key, paste, and the phone number is going to be this here. Now, it's going to be 325-614-93333. So I'm going to try and type that here, 325-614. And I forgot, was it 93333? Let's see here. Yes, 93333. You probably cannot paste into the phone field because we're using the input mask. So you probably have to type that one. Okay. Now, I don't want to start making a new record here, so I'm just going to click on Mr. Washington's last name there. And as we type data into the database, it saves it as we go. If you make a mistake and you need to delete a record, remember that you can delete a record if you start to create, an extra one or whatever. You can right-click on it and delete a record, or you can go to the delete drop-down menu on the Home tab to delete a record if you want to get rid of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to import the records out of the file that I've given you guys. So let me see if I can find that file here. Looking in my Downloads folder, this is Access. This is the locking file that Access creates when Access has a database open. Here is the import data for the owners table. And I want to import this here. It's got, I think, 4 more owners. And so to do that, I have to close the table. Let me repeat that because that's something that always throws people off. You can't have the table open and also add to it by importing data. So close the table, save any changes that you need to save. Now, with a blank workspace here, go to your External Data tab, click on New Data Source from File, and then Excel. So let's go ahead and click right there, okay? So not this button in the Export area. This is the Export area. Pull down the New Data Source from File, Excel, click on that, and we're going to browse. Give me a moment to find that file. All right, here's the file. Notice that it's filtering out everything except Excel files. Because I clicked on a new data source for Excel files, that's all I'm going to get to choose from here. Let's find the file that I want to import and click Open. At this point, very important, append a copy of the records to the table owners. Do not make a brand new table. Do not please leave this circle selected. This is the one that it wants to use. You want to change it to this one here. If you make a table that you don't want to make, you can right-click on that table and delete it and repeat these steps. If you make a new table that you don't want, you want to add this to the owners table. Click OK. It previews the data that it found inside of that Excel worksheet. This looks good. I'm not going to really change any of this stuff. I'm going to hit Next a few times, finish once, close this window, and then it seems like nothing has happened. That's actually a good sign. If you get a message that pops up at this point that says that a certain field could not be found in your database, it means you have a misspelled field name in the database. So you'd want to go into the owners table, probably on the Home tab, go into Design View and double check the spelling of all of these. If you have anything that prevents this from working, that's probably the problem. Otherwise, if nothing seems to happen, just open up your owners table and you should see that we've got now 5 potential owners in the database. Okay, so let's go ahead and close the owners table. Let's get a blank workspace here and go back to take a look at our instructions. And if you want to, you can type everything that you see here in the instructions. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 owners that we're going to have. And you can copy and paste that information if you prefer to do it that way. Okay, we're going to open up the pets table in Design View, and we are going to add the foreign key below. What does that mean? That means that we're going to add one more field to our pets table that's going to identify the owner of any pet that gets adopted, and we can follow that identifier to find the owner's ID and then get the owner's name or phone number or whatever we need. So we're going to call this FK owner ID. I'll copy that. And let's open the pets table in Design View. I'll right-click on Pets. I will choose Design View right here. And then at the bottom of this list of fields, I'm going to create a new field called FK owner ID. It is going to be a short text field. It is going to have a description that says it must match an owner ID in the owners table. So let's get back to Access here and type that there. How long is this? Let's see here. I don't know why that's not, that is looking weird to me. I seem to have a problem with having copied this. It seems to have something hidden included there. Guys, give me just a second here. I'm going to try to copy that again. I'll try this, copy. All right, let's try that. Table, there we go. Okay, how long is this going to be? I think it's going to be 4 characters long. Let's find out. Yes, 4 characters. And so under field size down here, I'll circle it for you. Make sure that you put 4 characters right there. Okay. So let's go ahead and close this and save it so that that gets saved. And we should at this point be able to link the 2 tables together. So I'll check off a few steps here, and we're going to find ourselves on step 10. Create a one-to-many relationship between the owners and the pets table. What does it mean, one-to-many? Well, a one-to-many relationship means that that we have one thing that can have many relations. Okay? So in this case, each animal can have one and only one owner. But one owner could adopt multiple or many pets. So in the real world, when you're making databases, sometimes you have what's called a one-to-one relationship, where one thing can be linked to one other thing. Like maybe, a marriage type of relationship, if we're talking about families. You could also have a one-to-many relationship, like we're building right here. You also have, and we are not going to see this in any of our CIS-1A databases, a many-to-many relationship. And it's actually a very common type of relationship. It's not difficult to implement it, but this class does not teach how to do that. If you're interested, let me know. I'll try to help you out. But that would be like in the movies, where you've got each movie has many actors in it, and each one of those actors, we hope, will get many jobs and be in many movies. So actors to movies, if you had a database of movies, would be a many-to-many relationship. We're going to make a relationship for the pets and the owners, and to keep it simple, we're going to make it a one-to-many relationship. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Go back to Access. Make sure, and this is important, that this area here is totally empty. You cannot have any of your tables open when you're doing this. We're going to go to the Database Tools tab. We're going to click on Relationships, and we need to add a couple of tables here. We only have 2 tables. Now, your database in real life might have 30 tables, in which case it's probably too much to look at to dump them all onto the screen. So it expects you to choose what you want to see. If you don't see this side panel here that says Add Tables, you'll need to click the Add Tables button. But I'm going to just double-click on each table one time and put them both onto my screen. And so at this point, what I'm going to do is I like to stretch the wireframes so that I can see everything. on my tables so I can arrange things to where nothing gets hidden. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to click on owner ID in the owners table. And I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to drop it on FK owner ID in the pets table. Okay. And when I do, it's going to open up this little window here. It says owner ID to FK owner ID. Now, I'm going to make a mistake here. I'll make a mistake and drop it in the wrong place. I'll drop it right there. So it's no big deal if this happens. You can just click on the incorrect field name and use this pull-down menu to correct it. But just take a moment to verify that owner ID links to FK owner ID. And at that point, you're going to check off 2 of these 3 checkboxes. What that is doing is this. Enforce referential integrity means, and this is pretty common where you would want to do this, if you're going to say that a certain pet, Bob the rabbit, is going to get adopted by a person with owner ID 5555, there really has to be an owner in the table with that identifier 5555. So in other words, you can't just make up something and think that you're going to fix it later because you're not sure of the proper owner ID. Once something gets into your database that's incorrect, it can be very difficult to find it and fix it later on. So again, this is part of that feature of data integrity. We're going to use the built-in features of the database to enforce referential integrity, meaning that if we say a pet is adopted by somebody, that somebody really is in the database. The next checkbox says cascade update related fields. What that means is this, that if somebody had the owner ID of 1313 and they felt it was unlucky for them and they're going to change it, when they changed it in the owners table, the database would automatically go into the pets table and update those pet IDs in the FK owner ID field so that those links were then preserved. And probably that's something that you'd want to have happen. Cascade delete related records means that if you delete the pet, that would you go back and delete the owner? Probably you wouldn't want to do that. So usually in making a database, I would not check that third box. Now, if I've done this correctly, I should be able to hit create. And I'll see a line that says 1 to infinity here that leads from owner ID to FK owner ID. And that is the relationship between these tables. Let's go ahead and click close. And it will say, do you want to save this? And we most certainly do. And so now we have set up the relationship between our 2 tables. So let's go ahead and see what that can let us do. Let's go to step 11 here and open up the table for the pets table, and let's get some of these animals adopted. We're going to find pet ID number 1, and that's going to be adopted by 0100, okay, which is Tyrone, I believe. So let's go ahead and open up the pets table, find Charlie the dog, pet ID 0100, and in FK owner ID, type 0100. Type for pet ID 3, that's going to be for Martin the cat, 0103. For pet number 12, we're going to find pet 12, Connie the cat, is going to be adopted by 0100. Again, that's going to be Tyrone. And finally, pet ID 14 is going to be adopted by 0104, and that's going to be Lady the dog. Okay? As we type in these numbers, it should update this for us automatically. But let me just go ahead and make a mistake here. I'm going to try to type in under FK owner ID here instead of 0100. I'll type in 9999. That doesn't really exist, and I'm going to get a message that says you cannot do that because a related record is required in the table owners. That's because we checked that box that says enforce referential integrity. That's what it's doing, and that's what it's telling us. So I'm going to put that back to 0100, I think it was. And if I click someplace else, yeah, it accepted that. So that is good. Okay, in our instructions, we've done that. And so we're going to close the pets table and just take a look at the owners table now. And we're going to see something interesting. When we double-click the owners table, it opens it in datasheet view, and there's something new here. We have a plus sign next to each one of these owner IDs. And if we click on, let's just click on 0101 and 0100, we can see that 0101 has not adopted any animals yet. There's no animals listed there. But we can see that Tyrone Washington has adopted Charlie the dog and Connie the cat. So it pulls in data from that linked table to show it to us in what's called a data subtable. That way we can see the related data together all in one place. I'm going to collapse that right there. I'll close the database and I'll upload my file. And let me go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to go ahead to the top of the page and upload my file. And I'm going to choose the ACCDB. I've got the database open. Probably would be better if I closed it, but we can see that this one here has a little padlock symbol on it. I don't want that one. I want this one here. Let me go ahead and send it up to be graded. And there we go. I've got a mistake. Let's find out what it is. Abilene. Oh, A-B-I-L-E-N-E. I misspelled Abilene. Okay. So let me fix that. I put Abilene. It should be A-B-I-L-E-N-E. There we go. And I think everything else is probably okay. Yeah, everything else looks okay. Let me go ahead and close this table to save that data. And I will go ahead and upload this, upload my file. I hope I didn't make you misspell Abilene. Let me go ahead and upload this, submit the file. And there we go. That time it is correct. So if you followed everything that I did, please check to make sure that you spelled Abilene correctly. Please check to be sure that you spelled Abilene correctly, and then you can submit your file. Hey, thanks for doing this project with me. I hope the video was helpful to you. If you got any questions, contact me or your teacher. We're here to help you. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.